Now, Kenny, speaking about ADR and energy, our next guest is all over the whole energy thing. He was on last week. His name is Mark Jewell. For those of you guys who don't know, Mark is the guy that knows probably more about energy and why people buy energy-saving devices than probably anybody on the planet. We've got a couple of our people going to his class in Charlotte, but Mark is joining us again. He's live on the road. Mark, welcome to the show.
Hey, Eric. Hey, Kenny. Thanks for having me on the show again.
Mark, where are you this week?
I've just finished the 6-day Efficiency Sales Professional Boot Camp here in Chicago, the Windy City. Actually, the weather this week has been phenomenal. Sunny every day, just about every day, and it's just been a real pleasure to be here. It's a shame I've been so busy. I would have loved to have seen the sights, and it reminds me I got to come back to Chicago as a tourist and actually see the artwork and the architecture and just the city. It's just a wonderful urban environment.
Well, you were telling us off air that a way to be able to be an authority with your customers, to know what they're interested in and how to strike rapport with them. Tell us a little bit about your technique for that.
How many of you actually read the industry journals of the folks who you hope will become your customers? And what's really interesting about that question is that most people don't. And it shocks me, because I don't know how you go with subject matter expertise that's segment specific into a prospect's office without having thoroughly studied their trade organization, their trade magazines, white papers that are about best practices in that segment, et cetera. But the bottom line is when I get done with them, they're doing all that and a lot more. But let's go back to the trade magazines. Why would you care about what people are reading, the trade magazines that are on the coffee table? Several reasons. Number one, what's in that trade magazine indicates what the industry that they're in thinks is important at any given day of the week. Number two, the opinion leaders that write articles for that magazine or those magazines are excellent targets for you, because we talk a lot about in this course influencers, how to become an influencer of influencers. One of the best people you can become friends with is a regular columnist in a trade organization magazine that is related to your customer's market segment. The third thing is, let's say you see who the opinion leaders are and what they're talking about, what's important to the industry. What if you were to call that author and say, I really like the article that you did in May of this year. And, you may be interested to know that we have a service that's actually very close to what you were talking about. So if you're ever interested in doing a follow-up article along that same vein of thought, we'd be happy to be interviewed or give you some material to provide fodder for another excellent article. More often than not, you'll find that people are always starved of content, and they would love to interview you for something that's of genuine, relevant interest to their readers. Makes them a star, right? Okay. Now let's assume that you do find that there's some resonance with what they've written about and what you could have them write about, and now all of a sudden you get another article out of it. Guess what? That becomes a reprint. The reprint in the magazine that your subjects read, what an asset that is. It's much better than a paid ad done in that same magazine. And guess what? It's cheaper. You don't pay for being interviewed by the columnist. You pay for a national magazine article, ad, maybe $5,000 a page. And who knows how many people look at it, how many leads you get out of how qualified they are. You don't. But if you're actually mentioned in an article written by a columnist in that magazine, and you can do reprints of that and put it in your material, that's phenomenal. Not to mention the fact your prospect told you up front that's the magazine he goes to for knowledge about his industry. To me, it's a win-win-win-win-win. Now, I'll take it one step further. What if you talked to that columnist and said, this is what we do for a living. We help businesses become more competitive, profitable, and valuable in this particular segment with this product or service. Would you be interested in a case study of exactly how that rubber meets the road, to use an overused metaphor, for a future article? What if the guy says yes? Now you go to your prospect, maybe he's on the fence, maybe he's wondering whether he's going to do the project this year or next year, and you say, hey, listen, Bill, if you do this project this year, I just had a nice conversation with the gentleman who runs the blah, blah, blah column every month in Groceryman's Journal or whatever the trade mag is. And he told me that he'd be willing to write up a case study if we managed to give him an example of a client that we've been using to demonstrate this technology and basically give everybody, it's a win-win-win-win-win, because he gets an article, you get a case study, you get kudos from your shareholders, investors, employees, board, whatever. We get to work with you, and it's fabulous. That might be just enough to push him over the edge, maybe even more influential than getting a rebate to move the project along, because now it's something that he's personally involved in, emotionally involved in, and has reason to move forward.
Boy, that's a great idea, Kenny. That is a really, really good. Hey, everybody out there is listening, don't do that because Ken and I are going to start doing that. So, okay. So, hey, Mark, give them something else they can use. It's not going to inflict on me and Kenny's success.
You know, it's funny you should ask that because, I mean, any given 6-day event with 48 hours of continuing education credit, you're obviously going to say a lot of really valuable things that people are going to be scribbling down in the notebooks to apply as soon as they get home. One of the other things that came up is, so let's imagine you're successful at getting a referral. Maybe somebody sends you an email out of the blue. Hey, Mark, you know, there's some company that you should really talk with. I think they could use your services. What do you do? Okay, to me, we love referrals, right? And we have a very systematic approach to dealing with referrals, and I would definitely recommend that anybody who wants to be a sales professional adopt this very systematic approach to handling referrals. Let's go something like this. Okay, the person sends you an email or maybe he leaves you a voicemail. What do? First thing you do is pick up the phone. You say, Bill, thank you so much for thinking of us in this regard. It's always a pleasure to do business with friends of friends. You know, they say if you're doing business with friends, you can work 100 hours a week and it's a lot of fun. So first of all, before I go into the specifics of this referral, let me ask you, is everything going perfectly with the installation we did for you at your firm? And pause. Just wait. Now, he may say something comical like, hey, listen, if it weren't going well, I wouldn't be sending you a referral. Okay, so you can have a little laugh about that. He may say, well, yeah, everything's great. You know, there is one other building I need to talk with you about because we're thinking about extending your technology to another building. What did you just do? You just multiplied the referral. Now the guy's going to become his own referral. But let's put that aside for the moment. Now I say, great, well, I'm glad to see things are working out well. So tell me, why exactly did you want John to speak with me? Zip it. Listen. He's either going to say something like, well, you know, I was really impressed with the first time you did business with us. You were really patient with us. I mean, we had a lot of influencers that we had to soft circle their approval, et cetera, and you were not a pushy salesman. You actually allowed us to go through our process. You guided us through the process, but I mean, you approached me as a consulting vendor that allowed us to, you know, do things at our own pace. He may just as easily say, you know, I ran into this guy in the golf club the other day, and he said he's really got to get this done chop chop. He's looking for a vendor. He's kind of up against the wall because he's got to spend this money before the end of the year. And what I liked about you is when you did business with us, as soon as I told you what we needed, you had a person on my site within a week, and we had this whole thing done. So wouldn't it be helpful to know whether he thinks of you as someone who's very patient and willing to put up with a plodding decision-making process, or chop chop, you got to get this done because, you know, whatever. Imagine if you didn't make that phone call, and imagine if the prospect was thinking the second school of thought, where he was actually regarding you and actually bragging about you as the chop chop kind of sales professional, and you thought, as many salespeople do, well, you know what? This is my dessert. I'm going to go through all my rough work this week, and I'll call what I think is going to be a laydown at the end of next week after I get this more pressing stuff out of the way. What happens then? You call next Friday to be your Friday afternoon happy hour dessert. You're going to get the sale that you think is a laydown, and the guy tells you, much to your depression, that had you called last week, he would have done the sale with you. But since you didn't call, even though the person who referred you to him said that you were Johnny on the spot, because you didn't call, he had to find another vendor that he got out of the phone book. I mean, I'm exaggerating for the purpose of exaggeration, hyperbole, but the fact of the matter is you really need to understand why that person thought of you to send to his friend. The other thing is you say, okay, well, great, thank you very much. That's very helpful. Is there anything else I need to know about this prospect? Zip it again, listen, because the person will probably tell you all sorts of information that you will be happy to have when you initially approach that prospect, okay? The other thing you ask is, you know, well, before you hang up the phone, you should certainly say, Bill, I just wanted to tell you, I really, really, really appreciate you passing these along. And let me ask you, you know, it occurred to me the other day as I was thinking about it, there must be a ton of people in your circle of friends that could benefit from the same lower operating expenses, improved tenant comfort and convenience, that sort of thing, that you're already realizing with your installation. Stop. What does that say? It means he gave you one referral. There are probably many more. Now, I literally did this earlier in my sales career to a client, and he said, you know, oh, well, yeah, I got a ton of people I could send you to call, but, you know, I didn't want to overwhelm you, so I figured I'd give you one or two at a time. To which point I obviously said, no, bring it on. We have plenty of bandwidth to help friends of friends be more successful. At which point he opened up his Rolodex, gave me 3 more referrals. Why? Because I asked. Or anybody can get a name and a voicemail or an email, but the people that are the sales professionals are the ones who maximize the utility of any referral they get.
Referrals, that makes a lot of sense. I think, as you start to get referrals, how do you build on this? Because prospecting really is probably the hardest thing for all of us to do, because most people don't have time to see people they don't know. So Mark, it's a brilliant idea about working the referrals.
And also, don't forget to follow up in the supporting calls. In other words, if you get a referral, make sure you follow it up.
Yeah.
Because it might be one of those chop customers.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mark, thanks a lot. Hey, we got some people. We'll be seeing you next week in Charlotte. Hopefully we'll get you back on the road from Charlotte, North Carolina. I got 3 coming to your class. Make sure to put them through the paces. I want them being ninjas when they come back. I want to be like you.
Hey, Eric, again, thank you for having me on the show.